G'day guys, welcome back to a new episode of the Boundary Riders Podcast. A lot to talk about today. We have some news of a potential retiree returning to the AFL to continue their career. We also have some news about the Clayton Oliver situation. And of course in our world sport news we'll be taking a look at the cricket, Premier League and the NFL, along with much more to come. But first off, we'll roll the intro.
And then Rankin from the pocket, don't tell me, Isaac Rankin!
Yeah.
He's just got the license for a brothel.
Well, I think Gather Round's going to be AFL this next season.
It's at the handle at the back, Nick Dacos to get the pies home! He's done it!
But as always guys, before we get right into it, we've got my co-host, my brother here in Jack with me. Probably got a few things to talk about in the AFL, and then we've got some world sport stuff that's probably taken a lot more front knowledge of the sports world at this stage. But we are getting into the Christmas period, and we just missed a couple of days. Hopefully everyone else had a good Christmas. You get anything good?
No, not really.
I mean, I got you a couple of things, but fuck me. Anyway.
Yeah, I'm still sticking to what I said.
Oh, fuck off. I gave you a couple of nice things for Christmas. God.
Yeah.
God damn, that's so rude of you.
Yeah.
Anyway, first story I want to take a look at is something that probably been the biggest talking point of the football AFL world this week is probably rumours circulating that Cyril Rioli wants to continue his AFL career, or, well, come back to his AFL career. He's currently 34, and look, there's not a lot of evidence to go off of, but basically he's been replying to a few things on Instagram and whatever, saying that, kind of indicating that he wants to return to his AFL career. Now, look, I can basically guess what you're going to say. You're going to say it's absolutely no way in hell. My opinion.
I wouldn't take the pun.
Right.
I know how.
Well, do you think he would want to return to an AFL career after what's happened? Because one of the big reasons he did leave was because of the Hawthorn situation. It's a big risk to take the guy who is 34 years of age and have been out of the game for at least 3 or 4 years. There's been a little bit of links because Eddie Betts has been saying that he'd like to get into Carlton. I don't think that would be a terrible idea. If you had to pick 3 clubs of who you'd like him to go to, who would you say that would be?
Yeah, probably Carlton. To be honest, I think he'd be better off it somewhere other than Victoria. I think, if you're going to go Melbourne, you go to Carlton, maybe Giants, and maybe Gold Coast, if you want to go like that.
I think the idea of the Gold Coast wouldn't be a bad idea because he's got a big connection with obviously the Northern Territory, and the Gold Coast have a pretty big connection there as well. They obviously play a couple of games a year there as well. So I think that wouldn't be a bad idea. If we're looking at the side of teams going closer to finals or whatever, I think Carlton would be a good idea Victorian-wise, but because I do, maybe even an Essendon, because they do kind of need something to show. Well, we do have players who have played this would add like one player to their list that's won a final in 7,000 odd days.
Yeah.
So maybe they could add him, but I think that wouldn't be a bad idea to try and give them some like finals experience if they were ever to make it, but also to teach the young players, especially the young small forwards, like him going to a club and teaching some small forwards, it would be massive for their development.
Yeah.
'Cause he was one of the best small forwards that we've really ever seen, especially of our generation. There's been very little that have been able to compete with Cyril Rioli. Look, to be honest, I don't think it would happen. I think an AFL club would be a huge risk to take.
Yeah.
Because I think he's the only football that he's been playing over the past since he's retired is some like Northern Territory football, which would obviously it's not on the level of the AFL by any means. It's not even on the radar of VFL really. So. I wouldn't mind seeing it happen, but also does it kind of tarnish his illustrious career that he has had. He won 4 premierships when he played. Like I said, probably one of the best small forwards of this generation. Does it kind of tarnish the reputation if he comes back and doesn't perform?
Yeah, I don't know about that. It'd be like because how McDonald, Tip and Woody only came back for 1 year and then retired at the end of it.
Yeah.
It's like, it just doesn't seem like, because like we said, he's 34.
Yeah.
He's
only got at least 2 years in him.
He'll be 35 by the time, if he comes back next year, he'll be 35 by the end of the year.
Yeah.
Is there any, like, what could he benefit from playing 1 year? I don't see it.
Unless he wants to come back and coach, maybe that would be an idea.
That's the thing.
Like a
that I'd
player
do,
coach situation.
Yeah, maybe.
We've seen like Sam Mitchell go to West Coast for a year or two, then retire and become a coach, and then return to Hawthorn. But I think they could be a possibility, maybe a player coach role, because I do think he would have a lot of knowledge in the game, and especially now that the AFL is definitely built around like pressure and having your forwards have to put pressure, tall or small. So I think it definitely brings something like he brings a huge amount of knowledge to that area. But for him to come to a club as a player, it would be a huge risk for a club to take. Yeah. I think it would have to be a very young club or a club that's like needs success, like Gold Coast, to pick him up, or it has to be a club like right in the premiership window who needs that experience up forward to protect for this year, who are like right in the window, like a Carlton or whatever, to take him. Yeah. So Eddie Betts has obviously been the one who's like been pushing this. I think all that's really been the evidence for it as well. So there's not a lot of evidence to go this way that he's going to return. It's just a couple of tweets of him teasing, there's no contract. I've had no contracts at my desk as of yet. Yeah. So look, I don't think it will happen. But I mean, it's a nice way to think of it. I guess there are a lot of things talking about like people trying to spin a news story for this period, especially when there's no footy talk like us.
Exactly. So we've been roped into it.
I wouldn't mind seeing it. I wouldn't mind seeing it. There's been a few things talked about it, but at the end of the day, it's not a lot of evidence to go off of. But speaking of trying to spin a story out of little to no knowledge or information, our best friend of the channel, I think we forgot to mention him last week, which was very disappointing. I mean,
it should be in our contract.
We didn't hit our KPIs for last week. But Tom Morris, friend of the channel, I'm sure he loves me. I'm sure he's never heard of me, which is a good thing because I basically would just bully him. He's that kid at school that kids would have bullied, and then now that he's got like a career in trying to bully the kids. Essentially, he would have been the kid at school who got bullied by the big footballers or whatever because he was a loser, and now he's a loser but has a platform to try and bully these kids. But anyway, we did talk about it last week about the Clayton Oliver situation, and a little bit has been brought forward this week. This was basically I think it was on the Thursday on the day that we posted the new video. Tom Morris came out with his situation and talking about the problems and the complexities of Clayton Oliver's situation at the moment. Now, he did come out on SCN. I'll play the clip that's been circulating around him, and we'll get my point across because I've got a few things to say about this. I think I've sent it to you and said this will be a situation where I'm going to go off. Yeah. Because of how he's trying to act like such a nice guy or whatever. But yeah, we'll get into it. We'll play it for you guys quickly. Hang on, this isn't at the start.
The truth probably lies somewhere in between. So Clayton Oliver, no doubt felt let down somewhat by the club, like he was hung out to dry. But equally, I think Melbourne felt let down by Clayton Oliver. So it depends on who you speak to as to where the truth is, and it's very subjective.
Now look, I think I don't know about him being abandoned by Melbourne. I don't think that happened. I don't really think that happened, to be honest. I think that was a lot of the news was circulating around the trade period when we've already seen them come out after the trade period and say there was no way we were going to trade Clayton Oliver. Yeah. Under really any circumstances. So for him to say that Clayton Oliver's coming out and saying he didn't feel supported by the club, I guess there may be a little bit of truth to that because, I think Melbourne could have handled it a little bit better on the fact that they could have came out and said there is no news or any information during the trade period that he was going to be traded. Because we even saw West Coast come out and say that. When players like Elliot Yeo and Liam Duggan were being speculated of leaving. Yeah. So Melbourne could have done better there. But to sit there and say, it was Melbourne who were, not standing up for their... Clayton Oliver's really feeling hard done by when really, I think Melbourne have supported him quite well. They've sent him to live with Max Gawn, the captain of the club, to try and get him under, to try and bring him in, feel more a part of the footy club family, I guess that's probably the feeling, because he probably feels a little bit isolated at this stage. Trying to get him into feeling like he belongs at the club, because I feel like in the last year or so he probably hasn't felt as well as he probably could be and more secure at the club, if that makes any sort of sense. Anyway.
But I think what everyone wants to see, and this is regardless of what footy team you go for, you want to see Clayton Oliver back to his best and healthy. That's number one. And then
No, you don't, Tom. You absolute fucking liar. This is what pissed me off. This is what everyone wants to see. Everyone but you dog shit, bullshit, two-faced little bitch.
Yeah. He's been at him for the past 12 months.
Or campaigning for at least the last 6 months of, Clayton Oliver's doing this, Clayton Oliver's doing that, Clayton Oliver's going to leave the club after signing a 7-year deal. And now he's like, what we all want to see is Clayton Oliver healthy and back to his best. Bullshit, Tom, you fucking liar.
Well, what is he going to do if he does return to his best? He's got nothing to talk about.
Oh, I'm sure he'll spin another player spin some other player that's in some sort of little club situation.
Yeah.
Like what was like the little bit that Clayton Oliver obviously was being talked to about his behaviour, and he needed to like shape up a little bit, and they've obviously spun that into he's going to be traded to the Crows.
Yeah.
No, that was not even a part of the situation. Even Simon Goodwin came out and said, no, we were never going to trade Clayton Oliver. And I am absolutely dumbfounded. Well, not dumbfounded. I mean, I understand, but the fact that the media has not came for the throat of Tom Morris and said, you spun an absolute bullshit lie of a story for a good few weeks, with little to no evidence whatsoever, to try and spin, look, I was right. Because if it did happen, he would have been the first one to be saying, he reported it, he was right.
Yeah.
But now he looks like the biggest idiot. And I think a lot of people see that. There's not many people out there that would say, Tom Morris is a good journalist at all. Not that there's many in this country, but he was definitely down the lower echelon of losers out there. And for him to sit there and say something like that is an absolute joke. You don't give a fuck about the mental health of any player, let alone Clayton Oliver, who is struggling. And look, we said last week it was a very dumb thing for him to do, to drive with his suspended license. I'm not going to sit here and protect him for that. But the fact that he sat there for months being hounded by people like Tom Morris and the likes of that trade period journalists who, look, we already knew that this trade period was kind of going to be a bit of a slow one. And there were a couple of news stories throughout it, like Brodie Grundy, Taylor Adams, Lockie Schultz.
Yeah.
There were a few that came out of the woodwork late. But to just spin a story of Clayton Oliver, he's going to be leaving because he's had a disciplinary meeting, which would happen at a lot of clubs every single year, doesn't mean they're going to fucking leave.
No, 100%.
I mean, considering they sit there and have a meeting with them at the end of the year for any reason, doesn't mean they're going to be leaving. Oh, well, they had a meeting with Max Gawn at the end of the year after Melbourne lost their straight sets. I think that, one, he's going to lose his captaincy, and two, that he's actually going to be traded to Collingwood. I did hear that. No, that doesn't mean shit. You can't spin a story when you're not in the room. You're not in between the four walls. You don't know shit.
Exactly, yeah.
And just because he says, I have a connection to Melbourne, is the fact that he sits there and says that he's a supporter of the club, that is a fucking bullshit. Imagine you sitting there and talking about, I'm a big supporter of Port Adelaide, and then every single time Travis Boak, for example, you sat there and said, fucking, he's an absolute wanker, fucking should be leaving, he's just holding down the club every single week for a month.
Yeah.
Sitting there like Clayton Oliver. Or sitting there maybe like a Zach Butters or whatever, signing the 2-year deal. You sat there for every single week for the next 2 years saying, you know what? Because he only signed a career contract, he's going to leave. He's been linked to this club because Port Adelaide had a talk with him. Just making up absolute bullshit lies with a little smidgen of truth to try and give yourself an out.
Yeah.
That is just an absolute bullshit.
But that's what journalism is in AFL these days.
Well, it is in a lot of sports, I assume. I mean, we follow AFL probably the closest. And I think that there would be a lot of soccer leagues and that sort of stuff that would be spinning rumours and stuff, saying this person's going there. There's been years of Lionel Messi going to certain clubs for a lot of his career. I think that he was linked to Chelsea for a lot of years and never went. And eventually when he left Barcelona, he went to PSG for a bit. I mean, look at the talk about Kylian Mbappe as well. I know we're not into a World Sport Chat yet, but he was being offered so much money from Saudi football. Soccer, football, whatever. But I'm not saying that was a lie. What I'm saying is that every single person around the world, I think every single person around the world would have heard that story. And it never eventuated. And it looks like now he may go to Real Madrid. But there's obviously rumours every single day of these big clubs. The AFL journalism is so... I guess it would be like a compact
it's a
group because it's all surrounded in Australia. There's not world players coming from different areas coming to a certain club, it is circulated just to Australia. So they have to try and pull out a little, needle from the haystack to try and find a story.
Yeah.
And that's where they spun this Clayton Oliver story. And from the beginning, we already said, this is complete bullshit. And there were still people in the comments in that video saying, actually, Tom Morris gave the example of he had a meeting. Yeah, well, that turned out right, didn't it?
Yeah.
Fuck off.
Like we always said, from the beginning it started, me and you were both, this is not true, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
And guess what? Three weeks later, it comes out.
Well, no, I think it was a few days later they came out and said, oh, no, actually, Melbourne aren't going to trade him.
Yeah.
Yeah, no shit. Fucking bullshit. Anyway, he keeps on going.
I'd like to see him fitting in this Melbourne team and playing some good footy as well. I mean, health, welfare comes as number one. And this is not an exact science. It's not like he's hurt his knee, he gets to rehab his knee, and he comes back and plays. Mental health, emotional health, welfare, it's a really inexact science, isn't it? And it's something that footy clubs...
And guess what, Tom? You sitting there making absolute bullshit lies about someone wouldn't be helping their mental health in the fucking slightest.
No.
So you sitting there preaching, it's an inexact science, mental health issues. Fuck off. I think, well, look, I'm not going to say that he doesn't have an idea about it, because I'm sure he does. But the fact that he sits there and tries to profit off of it is absolute bullshit. And, at the end of the day, there may be a few people saying, it's his job to, try and find these stories. Your job is to try and, you're as a journalist, and that's for all journalists, your job is to tell people the truth.
Yeah.
Your job is not there to get clicks, to try and, sell spots on your, advertisements and stuff, like trying to sell advertising. Like, you can see in the background of this clip, their sponsors are McDonald's, Kia, and Neutrogena. I don't know what the other one is. But whatever it is, they're trying to get money to try and, promote to advertisers that we get a lot of clicks. That's what they're doing. They're not trying to promote the truth, which is your job. Your job is to promote the truth to people. And you're in the privileged position as a journalist to tell people that. That is your job.
Yeah.
It's not... If my job was to... as a forklift driver was to, drive safe, keep everyone safe, do your job in a well-paced manner. It's not to get a bunch of sponsors on my forklift and promote that to people while I'm the worst forklift driver on the planet. Or as a chef for you, it's you to cook good food and...
Not kill anyone.
Not kill anyone with your knife, apparently. Well, not give anyone salmonella poisoning, cook it, keep to a good standard. It's not to, get the biggest amount of sponsors on your shirt to fucking promote to people.
Yeah.
Yeah. That may be a terrible example. But I think you understand what I'm saying. And for him to sit there and promote all this bullshit about, it's all about the mental health of these players. You don't give a fuck about it. So shut the fuck up.
No.
I would much rather have him sat there and said, you know what? I would rather him come out and apologise and say, look, I got this story wrong.
Yeah.
And I tried to and get ahead of the... Even if you made up a little bit of a bullshit and said, I tried to get ahead of this story and I got a little bit went a little bit overboard. I'd much rather that than him try and spin now that he gives a shit about player mental health when he doesn't give a fuck about it.
Yeah.
I just think that's absolute bullshit. But that's pretty much all he had to say. It was a 52-second clip, and I've spun it into 15 minutes. Or we have. But anyway, I thought that was pretty good. Good job from us. Maybe just a little bit more to pre-season news to take a look at, which is probably the biggest one that I've seen. You've seen.
Yeah.
Was a journalist by the name of Matt Forrest. I've never really heard of him, but he says that he has a pre-season watch that Tom Stewart from Geelong, arguably one of the best defenders in the competition, definitely one of the best intercept defenders in the comp, has been training with the midfield group for Geelong, and it looks like that he'll be getting a lot more midfield time in 2024. Now, what are your initial thoughts on
Well,
that?
my first initial thoughts is why would do that to the best defender in the league is put him in the midfield and try and spin him and try and change his role when he's pretty old already and try and change his role.
Yeah. Now I understand what they're trying to do here. They're trying to inject some different players into their midfield because their stocks in the midfield are either old or way too young.
So their decision is to put in a defender.
Yeah.
It
Now
doesn't make any sense to me.
I mean, they may have they tied Tom Atkins in there this year, and that was actually a pretty good decision.
It worked for most of the year, yeah.
Yeah, and I think he played as really good as a defensive midfielder, sort of. He's one of the better two-way runners in the comp, in my opinion. But this is not the option, I don't believe.
No.
I think that the fact that Geelong are trying to breed a new defence as well, they obviously lost to Sava Radicale. A lot of weight is going to go on the likes of De Koning and Jack Henry next year. So I think that they need a big figurehead down there like Tom Stewart, who has proven himself as one of the best defenders in the comp, to be down there and help out these young defenders next year.
Well, when he signed, I think, 2 weeks ago, what's his name? Paddy Dangerfield came out, and I think it was a tweet or something. He said he's one of the best defenders and shit like that. So why, if your captain believes he's a defender, why would the entire coaching staff decide, all right, we're going to trial you in the midfield?
Yeah,
That's going to work. He's a good all-round defender.
Yeah.
He's all-Australian in the back line. He's proven himself for years as a defender.
Yeah. There were a few times last year as well where that, because of all the injuries that they did have, they did trial him in the midfield. And not only did he not really perform in there, he did okay, but he didn't perform outstandingly. But their defence suffered for it.
Yeah.
So I don't think this is a good option at all. I think that they could trial some other players in the midfield. I'm not saying they shouldn't, like the Jack Bows and that sort of stuff. Even, I don't know, Mark O'Connor, which they have tried in the past as well. Give them a real crack at the first 5 rounds of the season or the first 8 rounds and say, hey, you are going to be a midfielder for us. You get a first crack at it. We're going to give you 6 to 8 rounds and give you a good hot go at it. And see what happens. Because who knows, maybe they will be a top-tier midfielder by the end of the year. We don't know. They could be crap, and then they can go back again, or they can go to the VFL and trial somewhere else.
Yeah.
But I can't believe they're even considering putting Tom Stewart, of all the players in the club, to go into this midfield group and give him a go. Because one, I think it doesn't... the attributes that he has is he's a very good overhead mark. He's a very good defender to begin with. And... I mean, I think he's very leadership driven as well. I think that's 3 attributes that you could give Tom Stewart. To sit there and say that he's going to be one of the, he's going to have to be a 2-way runner for one. I don't know if he's the best delivery guy in the world. He's probably not the worst, but I don't think he's the best either. So the fact that he's going to have to be, let's say he's in the clearances for round 1, he's going to have to get the ball out of the clearances into their forward line. The likes of being as good as Dangerfield, Guthrie, I'm assuming, is going to be back. Is he going to be as good as that? And also, the one thing I think Geelong lack is some leg speed in their midfield.
Yeah.
Tom Stewart's not bringing that at all.
No, not at his age.
Not at his age.
Like, you've got other players, like you were saying, Bowes. I think you could, if you want to put Max Holmes in the midfield and just try and inject him instead of off the wing into the midfield, you could trial that.
Tanner Bruin's probably got some leg pace as well.
Yeah, you can trial that. You can trial some other players. But to trial someone like Stewart, who's not that pacey compared to some of the other players...
They're basically adding I would imagine that Tom Stewart as a midfielder would be very similar to a Cam Guthrie, Mitch Duncan when he used to play in there, Paddy Dangerfield. That's what I'm thinking he's going to be.
And they don't need better players for clearances. They've already got the clearance players.
Yeah.
They need someone who can deliver the ball beautifully into the forward 50.
Yeah.
And some pace.
Which Tom Stewart I don't think provides.
Either.
So I would be very surprised if this eventuates. We've seen a few times they've tried it in a pre-season game or 2 and it hasn't worked, so they've just quickly changed it, which could happen. But, I mean, maybe we'll be wrong. Maybe in round 5, he'll be one of the best midfielders in the comp, have some really good, one of the best clearance players in the comp, and then we'll be telling us to shut up. Maybe they are trialling that maybe Dangerfield will play more forward this year as well. That could be another option.
But he can't kick straight anyway, Dangerfield, so...
Yeah, but I mean, that's a forward. I think you could provide as a forward. I don't think he'll ever be a halfback as his career comes to an end. So maybe that is an option, but at the end of the day, I don't think Tom Stewart's the right decision to play as a forward. As a midfielder. Yeah, so that was probably the news story of the week that I saw, that you saw going into kind of the Christmas break for teams as the pre-season kind of comes to a close now. Well, the pre-season training comes to a real close. That's really all the AFL chat that we have for this week. So we'll move into our world sport, and the one that I wanted to start off with is the Tom Curran situation. Now, you've obviously seen this, the 4-game suspension. This was earlier in the week as well. So what happened was, if you haven't seen it, he was doing run-throughs as a bowler to test his run-through, and he ran on the pitch. So, overall, I don't think that's such a big deal if he did that. If he didn't know the rule, let's just say he didn't. The umpire came to him quickly and said, hey, just run on the side of the pitch. We can't allow you to run on the pitch before the game starts.
Yeah.
Pretty nice way of coming at it. And Tom Curran, instead of just taking that advice and saying, oh yeah, no worries, moving across, he charges at the umpire, steps aside, and then tells him to fuck off.
Yeah.
What an asshole.
And then he came out, I think, after, and it may have been during the appeal.
Yeah, and then they fucking appeal it. Fuck off.
Yeah, and he's like, yeah, I wasn't intentionally going for the umpire. Have you seen the footage, mate? You're literally charging at him.
Yeah, I think this is an absolute joke.
And I think he's, and to be honest, I thought it was a bit harsh at first to give him 4 matches, but after listening to everything he did and obviously what he's done, I think 4's probably about right. Since even
I think it's pretty light, to be honest.
Yeah,
I think it could have gone for more.
But I think also they've got to think that, like, this is just maybe Cricket Australia or whoever gave the verdict. He played 1 game, maybe 2. No, it would have been 2. Then misses 4 games. There's only 10 games in the season.
Yes, I mean, he's missing
He's missing half the season, so it's probably about right in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough, but the fact is you can't do that to an umpire. The fact that he runs at him and then tells him to fuck off,
yeah,
like, up yours, bro.
Yeah.
Like, fucking, I don't even think that's an England thing. A lot of comments as well, a lot of people were saying that he's a very arrogant person as well. And I think that kind of sits with a lot of cricketers as well. They're very, the higher echelon of people. They grow up a lot of them will grow up very rich. You don't see many, like, poor kids coming up as a cricketer. I wouldn't imagine.
Well, because there's a lot of the equipment is fucking expensive.
Oh, yeah.
Fucking expensive. And you think if you look around, it's like, even in the olden days, it was a very privileged game to play.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I mean, I think the most favoured people, especially in Australia, like, our favourite players in the past have been the working class players, you feel like, don't you? So, but, yeah, this Tom Curran, he's been a pretty good bowler, all-rounder, sorry. All-rounder or bowler? Yeah, for England.
Bowling all-rounder.
Bowling all-rounder, yeah. And this was just an absolute fucking joke. He should have been... I believe he probably should have got more. I understand why he's gotten 4 games, but yeah.
And I don't know why... Because literally the next game, they were talking towards Moses Henriques and all that about it. And he was saying, we don't believe he should be getting 4 matches for this, and we don't... But he also said he doesn't really know what happened. He's like, how do you not know? You're the captain of the team. How do you not know what happened?
For one thing, that you're the captain of the team, but 2... You're telling me you have not watched any news around this whole situation?
He's like, I haven't really seen it. It's like, it's been around the whole...
AFL coaches use that all the time when they say a player's, like, been knocked out or whatever, and they see their player and they say, I didn't really see it. It's like, I don't even believe you then. Yeah. Even though it happened during the game, and you have a lot of things to talk about. I don't even believe you then. The fact that it's been a couple of days, and you're playing now...
And that's bullshit.
And you have no knowledge of what's happened. Like, just tell us the truth. Even if you think that it shouldn't have been a couple of weeks or a couple of matches, I'd rather you say that and say, I haven't really seen it.
Yeah.
It's like, fuck off, you have not seen the fact that one of your international marquee players has got suspended for 4 games and you have no idea why.
Yeah.
Fuck off, you don't know.
Yeah.
Like, and the fact that the Sydney Sixers even appealed that was a joke.
Yeah.
I think they appealed it for like a couple of days and they were like, oh,
then
shit.
they realised what actually happened and they're like, we'll just accept the charge.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It was not a good look.
Yeah.
It was not a good look. And to be an international player, a marquee player, that's worse.
Yeah.
That's worse.
You're supposed to be representing your country as well, and the fact that you're sitting there... Like, this isn't like he went over to... Went to a nightclub and snorted a line of coke or whatever. It's like, I mean, that's bad, but, that's not really... You're only hurting yourself, really, at the end of the day. If you're going to do that, that's on you. If you're going to run... Like, an umpire's doing his job, he's just telling you, look, you can't do that. And he could have easily have... he could have given him a suspension on the spot, because he's not supposed to do that.
Yeah.
But the umpire was nice about it. He said, look, just don't do that again. Just run on the side. Which is fair enough. And he, instead of just taking that on board, he didn't even have to be, like, nice about it. He would have said, yeah, all good.
Yeah.
He didn't have to be, like, overly nice. Which, I mean, I would have been. Like, I think anyone really, with a conscience would be like, oh, good. Sorry.
Yeah.
I didn't know that rule firstly, but a cricketer probably should. But anyway, the last thing he should have done is charge at the umpire like a fucking idiot, and then just say, "Oh, fuck off."
Yeah, exactly. And this is in every sport. Doesn't matter what sport you're playing. The referees, umpires, you don't do anything to them. You don't touch them. You don't argue with them because they're playing. They're the umpires. Yeah,
you just yell at them from the boundary.
Yeah,
So you fucking idiot.
yell at them from as a fan.
We'll do the job for you.
yeah, that's the fan's job.
Yeah, that's the fan's job to abuse the umpire.
Yeah, exactly.
But even in this situation, he was doing nothing wrong.
Yeah,
If the umpire makes a wrong decision, I understand when a player goes, "Oh, you're kidding."
Yeah.
Or like even with soccer, I think it's too far when they surround the umpire. I think that's a bit fucking wrong. But like when the AFL players like go, "Oh, fucking bullshit," and they pay 50 meters for fucking like accidentally swearing, it's like you live in Australia, bro. I'm sure anyone over the age of 12 has sworn in their life. Yeah. And, that's a whole other conversation. But, end of the day, I think that's absolutely a bull. Yeah, he should have just he should have been, I think she should have given more to use it as an example. But I understand, looking at it as well, he's been given 4 games, which is essentially half the season. I think that's pretty well fair. Pretty well fair, a little bit more. The fact that they even challenged it is ridiculous. Yeah. Yeah. But we'll move on, and at this point, we'll be talking more about the Premier League and a couple of interesting looks at it going into this morning. Looking at this morning's results, we saw Bournemouth win 3-0. Bournemouth are actually on a bit of a rise at the moment. Solanke scored a hat-trick in his last game, not this one, but he's doing pretty well. Luton Town, good to see them. The underdogs.
They've won their past 2 games, Luton. They're playing well. They're just...
I mean, they're not exactly beating the likes of top teams, but they're doing. But they're in the dogfight of the relegation battle. You got to win the games.
Yeah, you got to win the games, and it was a good result because it was away as well. They've got to start winning games, getting the occasional point, maybe get the occasional win, but they've got to win at home, which they are doing, and they're doing it right. So. Yeah.
I mean, a 3-2 win over Sheffield United. When it looked like for a bit there that Sheffield United were going to pull that win. Yeah. The fact they got 2 goals and got back in front was good. Liverpool won 2-0 over Burnley and take top spot now. And United won 3-2 against Aston Villa, which was very disappointing. I was very sad by that. I thought Aston Villa were going to take that.
Aston Villa looked bloody good, and then
Garnacho played one of the best games of his of his United career so far. Yeah, it was a good win for them, for United, and it does keep them on track for a potential European spot into next year.
I think it was a big shock this morning with Newcastle. You see that?
Yeah, Newcastle as well against Nottingham Forest. The fact that Chris Wood, the New Zealander, got a hat trick was amazing, and it was really nice to see as well. He was a former Newcastle player, didn't even celebrate any of his 3 goals. Like the fact that he would have had to hold back.
Yeah, especially for the hat trick. You should be obviously you should be ecstatic, and he just played it coy and
he's like, yeah, good goal, it's all good, it's all good, boys. And I was like, come on, man. I understand he didn't show any emotion, but fuck, he must have been.
I think if you're a Newcastle supporter, as he got his hat trick and he celebrated, I think you can't really boo him. It was like a hat trick; it doesn't happen every day.
Yeah, exactly. It would have been very hard for him to sit there and go, oh fuck. Yeah. I think he would have been on the brink. He'd been like, ooh, maybe. And the other result for this game day period really was Wolves versus Chelsea. The Wolves won 2-1. Chelsea are an absolute joke at the moment, and it's embarrassing that they didn't at least get a draw out of this game. There was a period early in the game when Sterling had a chance to just give a little chip in. I think it was to Jackson. The fact that he didn't pass it, and it was an easy save for the Wolves goalkeeper, Sarr, I believe, was absolutely
Jose
Sarr. It was just terrible, and Chelsea now are out of the top 10. Bournemouth have definitely lifted, and they're in the 10th spot now. Looking at the ladder for now, Liverpool take top spot with an extra game.
At least it's not before. At least it was after Christmas, so we don't have that stat anymore.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So if we win it, we can't lose at Christmas.
Yeah.
That was Arsenal's job. So
I mean that is kind of true. Yeah. There are a few games coming up tomorrow as well, which we'll talk about in a minute. But Liverpool with 19 games played, they're on 42 points, lead by 2 points. Arsenal with a game in hand are on 40, are in second. Aston Villa still sit in third, but they have got City and Tottenham sitting behind them with games in hand. Tottenham have got the 18 games, so one game. They are 36 and in 4th spot. City are at 17 games, so they've got 2 games in hand from the likes of Villa and Liverpool. They're sitting on 34 points.
Yeah, that's why you're still afraid of City. As long as they've got games in hand and they've got games ahead of them, they can still win it.
Yeah,
That's
especially
why-
if they can get Haaland back as well. Also, another talking point about United. Rasmus Højlund scored his first goal.
Yeah,
Did you see his celebration? It's like, bro, this is your first goal in the Premier League. Kind of relax.
it's
You're
like-
halfway through the season.
Yeah, but it took him over 1,000 minutes to get it.
Yeah, it's not really his fault as well. I saw a video about Højlund as well. The fact that that United are just not giving him any chances.
Yeah.
And the fact that when he does get a chance, he just shoots because he's so excited to get the ball. He's like, fuck, I'm getting the ball, boys.
He's 20 years old and
He's getting paid a lot of money.
Yeah, he's getting
too.
paid a shit ton of money. It's like he probably thinks to himself, I kind of have to perform, and then
Yeah, there would be periods where you think, oh fuck, I need to score.
Yeah.
I need to get on the
and
ball.
to be honest, the goal he got, it was a good goal. I'll give him that, but it was kind of easy.
Yeah.
it was kind of easy.
Yeah, well, you take your
But
you
gotta
take your moment if you have it.
Especially for your first one, it doesn't really matter how you score it. It's like a monkey off the back. So.
Yeah, well, maybe he'll start scoring some more goals, and they kind of need to because their goal difference right now, United, is -4. So if they want to get to European football at the end of the year, they do need to improve on that. So they're currently sitting 6th, United. 7th, we have West Ham, then Newcastle, Brighton, and Bournemouth are in the top 10 after, for a while, sitting in a little bit of the relegation battle. They've just gone right up. Solanke kicking a hat-trick last game, and the game we talked about today.
You know that penalty they got?
That was the first one
in
they got 20 months.
Like,
Yeah.
fucking hell, that's a long time for a penalty to score. That's pretty bad.
Yeah,
really.
that is pretty bad. Yeah, exactly. But Solanke got another one. He's got 8 goals, I think, in the last 7 games, which is massive for him, former Liverpool player. Chelsea sitting 11th with Wolves as well. The relegation battle is getting quite interesting as well. We'll talk about that in a minute. Fulham sitting 13th, Brentford 14th, Crystal Palace 15th, Nottingham Forest 16th, 17th is Everton, which is very interesting. Luton Town sitting in 18th, Burnley 19th, and rounding out the Premier League is Sheffield United in 20th with only 9 points. Now, Everton, right now, Luton Town out of the bottom 3 are looking like the team that may be able to escape.
Yeah,
Now-
because Luton seems the only team to actually be able to score at
Yeah.
the moment. Burnley have always had the culture of never been able to score, and to be honest, that's what they're doing this season. They've done, I think, one game they kicked 5 goals, and that was it. Sheffield United, they can't do anything.
They are sitting at the bottom of the ladder with 9 points.
And
They're 7 points away from safety.
Yeah, and goal difference of -32. That's pathetic. that is utterly
The fact that they
pathetic.
scored 2 goals against Luton was pretty impressive for
Yeah.
them, to be honest.
Yeah.
Everton, they are lucky their goal difference at the moment is still in positive because they're sitting in a really tentative spot right now.
And obviously, the 10-point...
The 10-point deduction is very harsh on them still. They would be sitting right now in 10th spot if it wasn't for that.
Yeah.
Nottingham Forest, they got a win. They needed that win because if they didn't, they would actually be sitting in the relegation zone right now.
Yeah, it would be,
They
yeah.
would be sitting in 18th spot. They are in... I think that if anyone's going to go down, it's going to be Nottingham. Crystal Palace... Look, I feel like it's kind of interesting that Crystal Palace are 15th because it doesn't really feel like they are.
No,
I feel like there's
they're very under the radar team though.
Yeah.
No one really bothers about them.
Yeah,
There's
everyone
no
just
one
thinks
talking about them.
they're always a mid-table to bottom half of the table team as well. So they're sitting in 15th. They're kind of in the relegation battle right now, only 3 points away from Luton. Brentford and Fulham are kind of the other 2 teams fighting as well. And Wolves, again, they needed that win against Chelsea. It gets them out of that zone for now. They're 7 points out of relegation. But yeah, I mean, at the moment, some of the worst teams in the comp, other than Sheffield and Burnley, you know, you're looking at Chelsea, you're looking at Nottingham, who got a win. You're looking at kind of Brighton and Newcastle. They're not really playing that well at the moment. Since European football started for them, their season's kind of been up and down.
Yeah.
At the moment, do you still think that anyone out of the relegation zone can get eliminated? Do you think... can get out of the dog
To
fight?
be honest, I don't think so.
You
I
think
don't
all
think
three
so.
are
I
gonna
think, but Luton, as we get closer to the end of the season, they will just find it hard to get the points.
The one thing that is coming up as well is the January transfer window, so maybe a couple of these clubs in the relegation zone may be able to pick up some players and maybe see if they can get out. I think we even saw Nottingham Forest last season pick up Kayla Navas in the January transfer window as a loanee, and that was massive for them. So I think if any club is going to go down, it's going to be Nottingham, and if any club can get out, it's Luton Town. I think
Yeah.
that's the
Like,
only two.
yeah.
And I'd love to see Luton Town survive. I think everyone.
Yeah,
I think everyone in the world would like to see Luton Town survive.
And the thing is, if you do survive, you do get a bit of a paycheck. You do get that bit of a...
Yeah, I think it's it's one of the richest games in football. Well,
to
one of
get
the
into
richest.
the Premier League.
Yeah,
so.
minus the championship game as well. We'll actually look at the championship quickly. Leicester are in front, 6 points in front of Ipswich, who are second, and 11 points in front of Southampton, who are third.
So you're pretty much saying that the top two are set.
Well, Leicester, I mean, there's still a lot of games to go. You've got to play, I think, 46 games. They're currently on 24. Everyone's on 24 games, I believe, in the championship right now. I'm trying to scroll down, but the fucking thing's being an asshole. Yeah. So, right now, Leicester City, I think, are home and hose. They're pretty obviously going to make it through back into the Prem. Ipswich Town, kind of a surprise, really, up that high, but they are 53 points right now. They're sitting pretty comfortably, but they've got likes of Southampton, Leeds as well, right on their hammer. And then there's a real dogfight for that position in 5th and 6th for the playoff spots. You've got, at the moment in 5th, you've got West Brom, Sunderland, Hull City, Bristol City, Preston, Watford, Cardiff. Holy shit, this keeps on going down. Norwich, Coventry, Middlesbrough. Oh my god. And Blackburn as well. From 15th to 5th, there is only 8 points difference. I mean, if you look at from 14th to 5th, there's 6 points. So any team really from Middlesbrough at 14th to West Brom could still get to playoff spots right now.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot more to take a look at there. At the moment, I think Leicester are pretty comfortably going to get in, and who obviously got relegated, and Southampton as well. So it looks like, honestly, all three of the teams that got relegated last season could get back into the Premier League straight away. Leeds United and Southampton look pretty comfortable. The teams right now fighting in the relegation spots at the moment, Queen's Park Rangers are in 22nd, Sheffield Wednesday in 23rd, and then Rotterdam as well are sitting right down the bottom. Huddersfield Town are sitting in 21st. Millwall are sitting in 20th. Both of those teams are at least 2 games out of the relegation zone. So there are a couple of teams fighting in the relegation spot right now, but it'd be interesting to see Queen's Park Rangers. They were a team for a long period who were like lobbying in between both the Prem and the Championship, and now they could be straight out of the Championship into League One. League One. Yeah, it's pretty big going into the Premier League. Like at the moment, Leicester, they're pretty much guaranteed to go through unless something massive happens. Because I don't think many of the Leicester's players actually left. There are a few, but a lot of them wanted to get themselves back in. Jamie Vardy and the likes did stay. So that will be interesting if who else will go up with Leicester, because I'm pretty much marking that one down. Who do you think will be the other two clubs, like at this stage? Or do you think Leicester, right?
I think Leicester, obviously, they're what, 11 clear of Southampton, so that's pretty much guaranteed that they're going to get
4 games basically in the top.
I think if you look at it, Leeds, Ipswich, and Leicester.
You think Leeds, Ipswich, and Leicester? So no Southampton?
Yeah, I don't know about Southampton.
I think it would be nice to see a different club like Ipswich go to the Premier League. We haven't seen it. I mean, we obviously saw Luton Town this year do it. So Ipswich would be an interesting call. That's basically all the soccer news we have for this week. There are a couple of games actually happening tomorrow. Chelsea and Crystal Palace will be tomorrow. Brentford against Wolves. And Everton up against Manchester City. Big game for City. They need to get this win because they have got a couple of games in hand. But if they do lose it, it's going to get them... It's really going to be a bit hard to see City climbing right back into it. I'm not going to say they're out of it, but if they don't get to the full 3 points against Everton, it's going to be a little bit difficult for them.
Yeah, well, the minute someone says that City can't win it, they turn their form around. That's when they turn their form around, is when someone says City can't win it.
Yeah. And Everton do need to win this game as well, because they are still in the relegation battle, despite, being in pretty decent form since they lost their 10 points. Yeah. So, I mean, the last thing we'll get into, guys, is the NFL chat, and the Falcons won this week. Why would they beat a team like the Colts when they can't even beat a bottom team like, who did we lose to? The Panthers, which is an absolute embarrassment. I've looked at the next 2 games for the Falcons.
Who have you got?
We've got our divisional rivals in the Saints in the last round and the Bucks next week.
Depends. You win those two, you're in the playoffs.
Well, not exactly, because the Bucks are still in front of us.
Yeah, but
Points.
if you win both of them, don't you?
I think we would make the playoffs.
Yeah,
but it's
you
still a pretty big ask at this point. And you know why we won? I think because we didn't pick fucking Ritter. We actually picked Heineke, who actually played a really good game.
Didn't Coy he kicked like 5 field goals.
Yeah,
in
Koo.
one match.
Yeah, Koo.
Koo,
played
yeah,
well.
Koo. Yeah, so that's what.
Thank God we got a
Have
kicker getting some points.
The only way you guys win at the moment seems to be from your kicker.
Yeah, there's been a couple of games this season where we've only won through the kicker. You've got the results there for them through this week.
The Rams beat the Saints.
Thank God.
So that was a big one for them. Pittsburgh, somehow their offense decided they're going to play this week, so they beat the Bengals 34-11. The Chargers and the Bills actually made it difficult because they only won by 2 points to the Chargers. When the Chargers the week before couldn't do anything on offense with Herbert out, so that was a good one for them. Obviously, the Falcons beat the Colts. The Panthers put a pretty good challenge for the Packers when.
Yeah, I saw that too.
Yeah, the 33-30 Packers win, so that's a good one for them. The Browns, they're playing well at the moment, but because of their division, they're not on top of their division.
Yeah, they're currently sitting 5th in the playoff picture right now.
So they beat the Texans. So yeah, the Texans just the last couple of weeks they've went down in form. I think Stroud's had a bit of an injury, so that's a bit of a bad thing for them. When we get to the next game, when Detroit finally won their division. They finally won it after 30 years. The Lions, they beat the Vikings to do it.
Yep,
finally
they've secured their spot in the playoffs for this season. So good to see that. I think that's really good that it's not always the same old teams making playoffs. So finally we've seen the likes of Detroit making the playoffs, which is really good to see. They've always had a tough sort of division anyway, because they've always had the Vikings and the Packers, and they've always been very good performers.
Yeah.
So finally they've made that, which is good to see.
We won't look at the Jets game because they don't care. They're already out. Seattle and the Titans. Seattle did win to keep their playoff hopes alive. Jacksonville probably going to rue the Bucks game, losing to the Bucks when they really shouldn't if they want to play playoffs. And they did have the number one seed. Well, they had the seed top of their division. Now I don't think they do now.
They still do, but they're very close. The Colts and the Texans all are level on 8 and 7.
Yeah,
and they've currently got a 4-game losing streak. The Jaguars. They had that spot locked up, and now they've lost their last 4 games.
Ever since Lawrence did that slight injury, even though he's still playing, I think it's still hampering him. The Bears beat the Cardinals. That doesn't really matter. Who gives a shit? Well, it doesn't. They're both shit ass.
The Bears still can make playoffs. They're still
they
can just make playoffs. They're right on the brink of being eliminated.
The big game of the Dolphins and the Cowboys. That was a good game. That
Cowboys got themselves. They secured
They
their spot in the playoffs.
nearly stuffed that up with Miami. They nearly did, but I think being at home, being away, hampers the Cowboys. They are pathetic.
Yeah, they're a lot better at home.
Yeah. The Patriots somehow beat the Broncos with the last kick of the game, pretty much to win it.
Yeah, they're still sitting bottom of the AFC though.
The Raiders
somehow
beat the Chiefs. They nearly beat them the last time they played them earlier in the year, but the Raiders somehow did it this time.
I think the Chiefs this season have definitely dropped off. They are still pretty lucky that they're in a division.
Kelsey still can't get a touchdown.
Yeah,
Mahomes' wide receivers are they can't catch.
Yeah,
Mahomes can't do it all, and their defense has been, I think, used because they can't stay because their offense can't stay on the field.
Yeah,
so their defense has been on the field too long, and
they are like I said, they're very lucky they're in the AFC West because the Raiders and the Broncos have had a pretty poor. I mean, they're still behind the ledger of under 500%, 0.500. So they're both sitting at 7 and 8 right now. The Chiefs are sitting on 9 and 6, And look, they're not going to be missing playoffs by any means, obviously. But the last 5 games, they have gone 2-3, the Chiefs. So they're not playing that well at all. But
Yeah.
we have seen in the past they have been able to turn it on in playoffs. So you can't really count them out at the moment.
And then, the Eagles beat the Giants. Not really a surprise, that one.
Well, they needed that win, though.
Yeah, the Eagles needed to get back on the ledger. And I think the Super Bowl favourites really took a hit this week with the Baltimore Ravens doing it at San Francisco.
Yeah.
So that was a huge
They
shock
did a real
for
job on
everyone.
the 49ers, I
Yeah,
thought.
and I guess you can kind of see it because it was Brock Purdy. He's still a young quarterback.
Yeah,
but
but he did get well humbled in that
he
game.
did get it's sort of those games that you build your reputation on, and Lamar Jackson,
He even got hit for a safety, Jackson, earlier in the game.
I watched that. I thought that was a bit harsh. Didn't you?
Oh, yeah. I did think the ref got in the way.
Yeah, he tripped over him.
I think I don't know what they could have called, but surely the ref tripping up Lamar Jackson and then saying, "Oh, you've intentionally thrown."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Intentional grounding.
Intentional
Like,
grounding. It's like, bro, you tripped up the quarterback. I think it was funny. I saw the YouTube highlights and I saw the first comment that said the ref literally tackled him to the ground. Now, obviously, that wasn't the case, but the fact that Lamar Jackson had to try and jump over a ref and then find a pass,
Yeah.
like, that was pretty fucking bullshit. I think the ref could have been like, look, we'll give we won't say intentional grounding. We'll just say an incomplete pass. I think it was third anyway. It was third down. So surely the ref could have been like, look, I've tripped you up. We're not going to replay the play.
I know he fell in the end zone. I know it was in the end zone. But if you wanted to say intentional grounding, say that and say, because I tripped you over, it's at the 1 yard line. It's at the 1 yard line of the 40.
Well, I don't know. I mean, maybe. But,
but
I think at the very least, the ref should have been like, look, it's third down. You're not going to go on fourth down here. That would be stupid. They're going to have to punt. So at the very least, just say, look, it's not going to be intentional grounding. We'll just say fourth down and you're going to punt it out. That's what I think should have been happening. It didn't really matter for the Ravens. They went on to win the game. But, yeah, I think that was a bit... that was very, very harsh.
It was very harsh. When I saw it, was like... And then, they're all going up to the referee and he's smiling. He's like...
Yeah, you're a bit of an arsehole, bro. Get the fuck out of the way. Yeah, he just fell straight to ground. I thought that was very harsh. But we are looking at it right now. The 49ers have obviously clinched the top spot in their division and are on top of the NFC with the Eagles and the Lions all 11-4. The Buccaneers currently hold their 4th spot.
They should. No one in the NFC South should even have a spot in the playoffs. They're all fucking pathetic.
Yeah, they're all...
No one wants it.
To be fair, the Falcons, they would still be in the playoff spot, the Buccaneers, if they went by wins and loss record, because the other teams sitting like 7th right now in the NFC is the Seahawks on 8-7, and the next spot is the Vikings on 7-8. So they would still have a spot in the playoffs, but right now the Buccaneers sit in a spot where they would have a home final, which I think is a bit unfair. But that's how the NFL has been set up.
At the moment, they'd be playing the Cowboys. So whoever plays the team that wins the NFC South are going to get an automatic win, because it looks like it's going to be it's either the Cowboys or it's going to be the Eagles. It's either or, because they're the best. Obviously. So
I think it'll be very... Well, the Cowboys haven't been able to convert on... Because the last few years they've obviously been in that 5th spot because the Eagles have done so well.
Yeah.
So the Cowboys have gone out pretty easily. Have gone out in that one spot. They haven't been able to win that first playoff. So, if the team from that division, where the Bucs and the Falcons and the Saints all can still make that playoff spot... if they go and win their first game, that would be fucking so demoralising to the Cowboys.
Yeah, to be honest, they've always had the curse. But if they do lose that first playoff away to the Bucs, Falcons, or the Saints, the coach has to be sacked. In my opinion, if they lose that first playoff to the NFC South winners, sack him. I'm sorry, you have to. Like, they've been so good all season. But they can't win away, and if they can't win this one to them, I don't know what you do.
I mean, right now the Cowboys have secured their spot in the playoffs, no matter what. So either the Cowboys or the Eagles can still take that top spot in the NFC for their division. So right now, both teams are in, so they don't have to be too concerned about that. But you've got the seeds there right now for the NFC. Who are the players? Well, you can go through the seeds.
Seed anyway. One's obviously the 49ers. Second's the Eagles. Third's the Lions. Fourth is the Bucs. Fifth is the Cowboys. 6th is the Rams, and 7th is Seattle. In the hunt on the NFC's 8th seed is the Vikings, the Falcons, the Packers, and then the Saints. So, as we saw, if you want to see it from another perspective, the NFC South is competitive.
Yeah. Well, right now, the only other team that you didn't mention there that have not been eliminated is Chicago, which are like on the brink, and you would say at the end of next week, will be eliminated.
Yeah.
The Giants, Commanders, Cardinals, and the Panthers obviously have all been eliminated. And then you can go look at the AFC side. You got the seeds
So the
there as well.
AFC's Baltimore, 2nd's Miami, 3rd's the Chiefs, 4th is the Jaguars, 5th is the Browns, 6th is the Bills, 7th is the Colts, and in the hunt still is the Texans, the Steelers, the Bengals, and the Raiders.
And to be fair, the Broncos are in that same boat because they are both on 7 and 8 as well. But at the moment, I think both of them are probably eliminated. And looking at the eliminations at the moment for the AFC, it's the Jets, Titans, Chargers, and the Patriots all gone as well, pretty obviously.
Yeah.
The next couple of weeks are going to be very interesting.
There's only 2 more weeks of the actual
There's 2 more weeks
season.
of the actual season. If you had to look at it right now, looking at the seeds, do you think anything really changes? Do you think there's a team that go out or go in? First start with the NFC side.
NFC.
Do you see the Vikings, Falcons, or Vikings,
So
Falcons,
who do you think
Packers,
is
Saints?
leading the NFC South?
I still think the Bucks will get
I
through.
think it's the Bucks. I think that Mayfield seems to turn it on every now and then, and
He's only got 2 more games. If they win, if they can beat, because the last 2 games will be against their divisional rivals, and one of them is the Panthers. Now, look, I don't think they're going to choke as much as the Falcons did, because if the Falcons won that game,
they'd be
pretty much in there now. They've almost secured it, because they only have to win one of their last 2 games. The Falcons have the hardest run out of the 2, because they don't get the Panthers.
Yeah.
The Falcons have got the Saints, and then they've got the Bucks and then the Saints to finish. So, I think the Bucks are in the box seat, obviously being in that position and having the extra win. They basically only need 1 more win to get through at this stage. So I'm thinking the Bucks are going to go through pretty convincingly. They've got a better record than the Falcons in their conference, and the Saints as well. They're 6-4. I just think the Buccaneers have got runs on the board from the previous couple of years. They've got a better record. They've got more wins than losses. Can't say the same for the Falcons and the Saints. So I think the Bucks will get through. I can't really see anyone else getting into that top 7, to be honest with you.
No, not with the way the Vikings are playing at the moment. They're just so wishy-washy. You just don't know what they're going to do.
Yeah.
And the Packers, they could do it, but I just don't know. From what they're doing, they just.
I mean, maybe one of them 2 can get through. Maybe.
But to be honest, Seattle and the Rams are playing. I think Stafford for the Rams is playing pretty good football at the moment.
Yeah.
But to be honest, I think if anyone's going to lose it, it's going to be Seattle. But I don't think they will.
Yeah, I think they'll be good enough. I think the Vikings haven't been good at home this year, so depending on their last 2 games, they've lost the last 2 games as well. If they can win one of their games at home, they should be okay. But right now, I think the only thing that will change on this, I don't think any of these 7 teams are going to be out in the NFC side. The only thing I can think of is maybe the Cowboys can jump the Eagles and get their spot as a home final, which if they can, they're going to be very hard to beat, because the Cowboys have not lost at home this year.
Yeah.
The Eagles have only lost once, but the fact that the Cowboys got a really bad run away, they've only got 3-5. So if the Cowboys can play their playoff game at home, that's going to be big
It's
for
a
them.
huge leap for them to go to even go to the Super Bowl. Really,
Yeah.
the way that they play.
If they can get their playoff games at home, nearly every single one, they're going to be hard to beat.
Yeah.
They can get to the NFC Championship, basically at this point. They could almost, if the 49ers drop off a little bit and so do the Lions, they could take that top seed spot, the Cowboys. They can do that. And if they can get the number 1 spot, that would be massive for them.
Yeah.
Looking at the AFC side, I think the Ravens are the hot favourite now.
Yeah.
They've proven that they've got that spot now. They beat the 49ers, which were the best team in the NFC in my opinion. The Dolphins are still playing well, and you still can't count out the Chiefs at this stage.
Yeah.
Because they can just turn it on in playoffs.
To be honest, I think if Kelsey gets 1 touchdown, their whole season changes. if he can get that one touchdown that hasn't
the
gotten
drought.
past, well, if he can break the drought of I think it's 5 weeks now that he hasn't scored.
Yeah.
If he can break that drought, they could do something with the Chiefs, but I don't know. And then, looking at it, you just think.
At the moment, I think the Ravens are the hot favourite to go all
I
the
think
way.
I said that a couple of weeks ago. I think the Ravens are going to win the whole thing, and I still believe that.
I still think, at the moment, right now, I think 49ers, I know they are the top seeds, which is kind of like not very interesting call, but I still think Ravens and 49ers are going to be right there at the end.
And to be honest, on that side, the AFC, the only team I see changing is the Colts, probably for the Texans.
Yeah, I think that's probably a fair enough call. I still think the Bengals could do something.
If Joe Burrow was wasn't on IR and still playing for the Bengals, I'd give them a chance. But I just don't think under Jake Browning that they can do it.
Yeah, and the fact that the Texans have done so well on their, debutant year QB, their inaugural year QB, is just amazing for them, considering last season they played so poorly, the Texans. They're in a real tough spot as well in the AFC South because the Colts, the Texans, and the Jaguars all on 8-7 right now. So all three of them could potentially take that spot in the top four and get themselves a home playoff game, which would be a massive for any of them. The Jaguars do need to find some form though, because if they don't, they can not only miss their home final, they could go all the way out. So I actually think that the Jaguars could drop out. To be honest, they've lost their last 4 games. That's not good, and I actually think that the Colts will take 4th spot, the Texans will go to that 7th spot, and the Jaguars will miss. I think there's a lot of things to happen in the AFC side. I think the NFC is pretty well written at this moment. I don't think the top 7 are going to change, but I think the AFC has still got a few more things to be done.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting couple of weeks for the AFC,
Yeah. With only 2 weeks to go, guys, the NFL, make sure to stay on the channel. Another hour podcast. Good on us, I think. Hopefully you guys had a good Christmas. Forgot to mention it, as we always do. We do have a Patreon right now. If you go click the link below, you'll be getting this podcast early. The Twinners podcast that we post every single week, you get that 2 weeks early, and a bunch of other exclusive perks as well. If you want to check that out, it's completely up to you. I think it costs like $5 a month. So if you want to check that out, the link will be down below. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you had a good Christmas, and hopefully you have a very good New Year. I hope we do as well. You got anything to say?
Not much.
Because they like and subscribe. I'll have to do it. It's all good. Like this video if you like this podcast. If you enjoyed it on YouTube, make sure to give us 5 stars on YouTube if you can, on Spotify if you can as well. Muck that ending up. But we've enjoyed this year. Thank you for the support throughout the year, and cheers. And hopefully we go forward more into 2024. Thanks for watching. We'll catch us all next week.
See you next year, guys.
Oh, did you have to end it like that? We'll see you next year. I hate that. We're keeping that in. Catch us later, guys.